Hi everybody, welcome back to Mindful Intelligence. Today we're doing another episode of Land the Job. I'm Sam.
I'm Kat.
And today we're here with Adam. Adam, if you could give us a little introduction about yourself and what your position this year was.
My name's Adam. I'm entering my third year in the fall at Raman Commerce and specializing in finance and economics. And this summer I worked at Think On as a financial analyst.
Cool. So let's start off with talking about the recruitment process. Can you tell us a bit about where you heard about this job posting and how your application process works?
Yeah, for sure. So they had a public posting, but that's not where I actually found the job. One of my buddies, his parents worked for the company, and I was just in conversation with him, and he told me that, hey, like, we're looking for people to hire for the summer. So I reached out to HR, got my friend's dad on the line as well, and we kind of got the conversation going and applied through there. So sent all my stuff directly to HR, and that's how the whole process got started off.
Awesome. And when did the application process start? Did you start like in the summer for next year's summer internship, or was it a winter to summer?
Oh, it was a winter. So I believe the first conversation I had was in January, and then I sent my stuff in, and then they said, they're going to be hiring for the summer, but it's just not, the ball's going to get rolling a little bit later. So February, March, I believe, is when I started interviewing, and then everything got sealed up around end of March. Yeah.
Good. So that all kind of ended right before COVID happened, I guess. That's good timing.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So can you tell us a bit about how the interviews actually were, as in maybe start with telling us how many interview stages there were?
Yeah, for sure. So there were 4 interview stages. I guess one would be unofficial and the other 3 would be official. So the first one was me just meeting with the HR, talking about the role, talking about what I would be doing, what they need. And from there, it kind of fit what I wanted to do. And they felt that, I have the capabilities of doing the role. So we kind of went on from there. They took my application. Then I met once with one of my bosses. So I had 2 bosses, one in finance and one on the product team. So I met with the product team manager first, and we spoke for a little bit, kind of understood what the role was. It was a very casual interview. I found they didn't like grill me on technicals. They didn't ask me stuff like that. They just kind of wanted to get to know who I was, get to know like my background, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at. And that went really well. So then we moved on to the interview with both the head of the product team and the CFO. And so it was just me, her, and my other boss, so the 3 of us. And that interview was a little bit more technical just because there's a bit of a finance role, but it wasn't something that was like grueling on breaking into Wall Street or something like that. It was a very, accounting based questions, making sure you understand about like the 3 statements, how they interact with each other, stuff like that. And making sure, you just have the basics down set. And that went really well. So then the 4th round actually was with a lot of representatives from the company. And this is when COVID started. So everyone got sent home. This was just near the beginning of COVID. And so it was called like a cultural interview where they met with me, my 2 bosses, lady from HR, and a bunch of people from the company. And we actually, they just asked me random questions. Like, it wasn't even related to anything my role was. They just asked me to figure out how I think, how I interact with people, if I would be a good fit. That was kind of the importance of that interview. So they asked me questions like, what color socks do I wear? Or, like, how many houses are there in Manhattan? Like, just weird questions that you wouldn't expect that don't really have a right or wrong answer. They just wanted to see how you reacted to stuff, how you're able to kind of wiggle your way out of situations. And that went really well. And then from there, got the email from HR saying that, they'd like me for the position, and got my my offer.
Yay, one win. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Just so let's backtrack a little bit. Could you walk us through the behavioral sections, and can you give us a little bit more insight and maybe some examples into what type of questions they exactly asked?
Yeah, for sure. So they always start with like an elevator pitch type question, which is basically just tell me about yourself. And I feel like that's like the really good place to make an impact when you're having an interview, because they want to know who you are. So everyone can read your resume, and it doesn't take much effort doing that. They kind of want to know what's outside of the resume, stuff that you didn't fit on that one page, and figure out what you like. So for me, I play hockey. So I talked a lot about hockey, talked a lot about sports, talked a lot about, stuff, my hobbies. and, you know, just kind of bring out the stuff that's about you that's not on the resume. So that was probably the first question I got that I think a lot of people kind of glance over that and they think, oh, you know, I can talk about myself really easily. But I feel like it's a really good idea to kind of go through some bullet points before, because everyone's expecting that question. So if you kind of know what you want to talk about, you talk about your hobbies, talk about your goals, talk about what you're doing now, where you want to be, and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's a really good, like, holistic approach to answering that question.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And was there any question that you actually couldn't answer? And then what did you do to mitigate that?
Yeah, I believe, yeah, there was a few questions. So my role, I worked a bit with the software team. So the product team we built, I costed out the products that we built. And so they would ask me questions like software based, stuff about like coding, stuff about, you know, software development that I had pretty much no idea on. You know, I'm in a finance role. It's not kind of stuff I've been trained in. So I kind of, the thing is not to BS. You don't want to like try to fake the answer. You don't want to like pretend you know it and, you know, kind of be shady about it. You can just admit, be like, hey, you know, I don't know, but this is what I think. And you let them know, like, they kind of want to know how you're thinking, right? So they were asking me questions about a certain product, and I'm like, I don't know how this is made, but from the name, from the description, this is what I think it would do. And I think that goes a long way, kind of admitting that you're not perfect and that you're kind of willing to get to that stage, like willing to improve yourself.
That's very true. In most cases, most interviewers won't actually hear about how your thinking process is and how you're a logical thinker as opposed to being a know-it-all. So that is actually great advice. And how did you prepare for this interview?
Yeah, so this wasn't like a typical finance interview where you can probably read a few of the guides and kind of suggested questions. So I figured it would be mostly behavioral because from what I understood about the company, they value fit really well. And from there, I just kind of focused on, as I said earlier, like building points about yourself and being like very coherent talking about yourself. Like be willing to just, you know, talk about what you like, what you don't like, what you want to do, how you think as a person, all these kind of things that kind of we take for granted, but I think are quite important. And also be like very prepared to go through your resume and be able to defend every single point on there. So you might put in some fluff point right at the end of your resume, being like, I love art. And they might ask you, hey, like, what's your favorite genre of art, or who's your favorite artist, and what's his like best painting? And you have no idea because you just put it on the resume to kind of seem worldly. So if you're able to put stuff on your resume that you actually believe in and be truthful, I think it's very good approach for that.
Cool. So you've given us a lot of advice throughout this whole video, but do you have any last piece of advice to give anyone going through a similar recruitment process?
Yeah, so definitely be yourself. I think that is something that is missing in like the whole finance scene as a whole. People kind of want to be this cookie cutter person, you know all your technicals, you want to go into banking or you want to go into private equity or whatever, and they train themselves to be this one cookie cutter, you know, like to how to approach questions, how to answer questions, what questions to ask, stuff like that. And I think the world is kind of moving into like a phase where we kind of want people who fit within a company and they look for stuff that's beyond that. And I think the best way to let that out is just to be yourself in an interview. So as I said in our other video, kind of public speaking goes a long way. I feel like being able to just express yourself to a group of people, being able to talk in a nervous situation like an interview where everyone is nervous, but just being able to be yourself. And I think that will go a long way.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Adam. That's it for this video. This has been extremely helpful, definitely for me. So I'd love to thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.